Eligible seniors, adults with disabilities, and adults who are immunocompromised who reside in Toronto.
Yeah, all you immunocompromised people come here all at the same time. Fucking retards. Remember that, white boy? Remember that, white boy? You don't work in this neighborhood no more, do you? You work in this neighborhood no more, do you? Oh, you're getting mad. Why is the pedophile that's harassing us getting mad that I'm talking about somebody totally different? Completely different. I'm not talking about you, dumbass. How about somebody actually exists in the real world?
The city says it's
The
hired
white
more
boy's
staff
been
and
gone from that
addressed some of the
grocery store a
issues
few
seen
months.
at
Why?
vaccination clinics
You tried
on
to
Monday.
force us to buy garbage and we wouldn't buy it.
I'm Owen Qureshi.
This portion of the news
So a
brought to you
2-year-old
by
girl
Square
was brought to a
Technologies, Inc. More
West
concerned
End
about
hospital on
supply
Friday
Canada from
with
abroad as India is now
severe medical
considering
distress.
curbing exports.
She died of blunt force trauma. Now the cops are going apeshit. You want to see the cops do their job? Holy, you got it.
Doses out of the Serum Institute until the country can get a better handle on increasing COVID infections and slow vaccinations. The problem is Canada's still waiting for 1.5 million AstraZeneca doses produced at the Serum Institute. The next shipment expected next month. A spokesperson from the International Trade Minister's office tells me at this time there's no indication our supply chains will be interrupted, and officials are carefully monitoring the situation.
It's not a supply chain. It's free on board yours, ours, dumbass. You don't seem to understand what's happening. All you're doing is waiting for the pizza guy to show up. You're not doing anything else. When he gets here, I'll answer the door.
The European Union also threatened to block exports. Pfizer and Moderna doses are produced there. It appears to be an escalation, though, in a dispute with the UK. The Trudeau government says it's received assurances our deliveries will not be impacted. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
A 33-year-old man facing a half-dozen charges in connection with several hate-motivated incidents in Markham. 6 City's Phil Martino joins us live to tell us the victims were Asian. Phil.
James, a police incident happened last Tuesday afternoon in the area of Pillar Road.
Asians make up of what half the Canadian society, according to these assholes.
A woman was out walking when
not a minority. Not a minority. There's more of you than black people and Indians put together. You're not a minority. You got all the white people kissing your fucking ass right now, and none of you will mention black people. You're getting called coronavirus. We're having blood and spit thrown in our fucking faces to make us sick. We have the highest disproportionate rate of infection, not you, pussy. You wonder why your startup gangs get fucking shot at up here, right?
Investigators learned that the suspect made some comments that they believe
fucking I'm the one person that gets to call you that. No, I'm gonna talk all over the entire story because it's not fucking real. Look at this, look how good we're doing stopping the anti-Asian racism. Yeah, because they're half the fucking population. It's the only reason you're doing it.
Motivated by hate, racism, or discrimination. Phil Martino, 680 News.
Yeah, we'll track gas next.
This is 680 News.
When you run a business, you run with unknowns. You run with quick decisions.
Every day they run a story about anti-Asian racism. They get the politicians and media making comments, so we have to do something to change it. And then they repeat the stories over and over and over and over. Every few weeks you hear a story that shows factually black people are being attacked to death. They do not repeat the story, and they don't do it every day. Right. Chinese and Southeast Asian make up a third of the population at least. Okay, look how many black people you got written down as white. How many Chinese people you got written down as white. And they're going to let it slide because they're trying to get a job and do whatever, go to school, whatever. I'm not. Meet Mr. and Mrs. Smith. My name's Mr. Jones. I'm gonna enter your home and break your bones. When you're all alone, pop shit at your dome, split it like this. walking streets, middle of the night, eyes closed with blood red. I was interested in the story about the little girl and the fire they've been talking about. You gotta love how Canadian police work. Been what, a week, 2 weeks? Now they're telling us to go back in our memory and tell them any little detail we can think of about that day. Now it's been ruled an arson. They've had their mouths shut about that all fucking week. No, we're not going to speculate. Why? Because you might get some actual tips to solve it. So what did they say? 2 adults, the bodies they found, and 2 kids, the bodies they're finding now, killed in action. You think this food was like clean shit out of the gutter? Hold on. Panasonic. 05 2021. Where's my new can? There. Duracell Pro Cell Professional. So these ones here I think aren't sold for retail. I could be wrong. Made in USA, patented, 2000. It looks like it says March 2011. And there's Chinese writing right next to it too. That's very good. That's good. Very good. That one's all rusty and shit. Actually, that's a piece of a tomato on the end, but it is rusty. I had 3 of these motherfuckers. Damn it. Damn it. Where'd the other one go? I did have 3. Now I got 2. That's you might think that's a net benefit, but I consider that I might have dropped it in a worse place than I found it. I had 3 of those ones. That's 3 I've lost this month.
People living on the streets of boulevard of broken dreams. Pray the Lord my soul to keep, because the time we're all set free. Every secret you couldn't keep, forever bleeding eternally. Drinking whenever you feel weak, down and out from weeks to weeks. Judge because they don't understand, but if you ask them in the head, listen to we all have hands blazing his pain. I can ask you, so amazed by people plastic. Open your mind, the world is tragic. Growing up in group was always getting kicked out. Speaking my mind, running my mouth, never follow the rules. It
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What fucking some people's houses get burned down.
I've slept outside, no food, no house, living in a world full of millions of souls, but never have I.
I don't know where this originally came from, but it looks very out of place. So I kept. So if you didn't get a flat tire today, you owe somebody. And if you did, you owe somebody else. What else am I doing? And this would appear to be a seal off a transport truck. I can't quite see it. Oh, anyway, I guess I just cut through it. This would be a cheap little piece of plastic or a sticker. You guys just kept stealing stuff. They used to give guys extra seals. I just said, I don't know where I don't remember putting that in my pocket. Oh, there's a hole. Oh, damn. It's on the top. That's okay.
At 16 degrees. Good afternoon. I'm James Monroe.
I'm Sledgehammer to Mancy. Here's some story for you now.
Just always, little tip, always in the arm pocket here.
Look for that 4 to 1 wall. Get the arms back. on its feet in this pandemic era. Full coverage is underway at 4 o'clock. Breaking news from the homicide unit. It's investigating after a 2-year-old girl died in a Toronto hospital last week. Officers responding to a sudden death call at the hospital on Friday. The girl succumbed to her injuries.
No. The police, I can almost guarantee, unless the hospital fucked up, the police were involved the moment that kid got there.
Host Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets tonight in Sportsnet 590.
The way it works up here, your kid shows up at a hospital with weird injuries, the cops are called. The benefit of the doubt does not go to the adults in the situation up here. Although there's horrible cases, but they're the exception to the rule. There's horrible cases. Then you got the hospitals faking drug tests because they're so convinced someone's a bad parent, because the co-parents, the teachers, and also the teachers, oh, it's dangerous for us to go to work now. Well, you said you were co-parents. Get to work, stupid. You said you owned those kids as much as we do, because under Canadian law, children are your property. And if you don't believe that, prove me wrong. Find where in the law you can prove me wrong. You can't. So all these I have to do it later. We'll have to. But I might do it later, but I want to do it later. I don't feel like doing it now. Let's not put it there. Uh-oh. I had 3 of those AAA. I don't know who the fuck's running around with AAA batteries. Like, what's that for? What the fuck runs on AAA batteries? Y'all got pagers? Y'all got pagers? I want it. What's the number? Tell me. Bad people. Oh. Like 1,000 grapes. I planted so many grapes and tomatoes today. Actually, that's not true. The grapes I did not plant. I was gathering. What is in here? That is a coin. How did I get a coin in here? This is curious. What is going on here? That would be an American penny. How did that get in my cuff? 2012 Denver Mint, and the tarnish, such as it is, looks holographic, like oily. You know what I'm talking about if you know.
Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party like I won the lottery. Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party.
Been sweating in that all day. I was trying to avoid getting sweat on that. Never like this. Don't do this. Oh, those ear loop masks? That's useless. You're constantly touching your ear. Constantly. Double cup, so I got a couple racks today. Didn't think I'd make it, but I made it back today. Cashing out in the bank every day. Put in work, getting paid. Hey, where my niggas at? Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party like I won the lottery. Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party like I won the lottery. I just wanna party like I won the lottery. I just wanna party like I won the lottery. Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party like I won the lottery. Just got off the plane, juice all in my veins, 6 buzzing my name, no one on these flames. Fucking Friday night, I ain't playing no games. I'm that West End chick that was raised in the lane. And yeah, you won't believe, pay up, just raise the fee. They calling, but they can't get a hold of me. The beats already BT, raise a bar for the sea. If the work ain't clean, don't come for me. They show up fraud, but they wanna come around. I'ma ride this way till the water run out. I'ma spark this place till the fire burn out. I'm before, but I'm most done now. Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party like I won the lottery. Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party like I won the lottery. I just wanna party like I won the lottery. I just wanna party like I won the lottery. By the way, letting bacteria and then drying them out again, One of the most effective ways to kill them. Because some of them can't handle the chlorine in the water, and then some of them can't handle being wet at all, and then some of them get wet, think it's time to grow, and then they dry out. You know, dead. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with these people. Everybody wants to be the marijuana deal. That's why I'm laughing at them with this vaccine thing. They're doing the exact same thing they did with marijuana. And I don't just mean the province of Ontario or government of Canada legal, quote unquote, legalizing, which is interesting because nothing I did was illegal until they rewrote the rules to legalize it. Just like prostitution, there was no law against prostitution in Canada until Justin Trudeau legalized it. Oh yeah. But Matt, well, he's a feminist. He's the first male feminist PM, right? Okay, here's the problem. Everything you do is fucking misogynistic and chauvinistic, you piece of shit. I wasn't expecting the video to go live so fast without problems. Bear with me. Please bear with us as we are not suffering technical difficulties today. That's good. The instant I hit the internet, you try and update everything, and maybe one day you'll trick me. What is interesting, the phone keeps trying to update files from HTC, and the problem is that company, their shit's out of date. Can you fuck off, pussy? Holy fuck. So the Goop Squad's already on patrol here, apparently. Wow, you're so impressive. Fuck's sakes. When I can't get on my own Wi-Fi 10 feet away, that's crazy. Or 2 feet away, that's crazy. Obviously, my Wi-Fi router sucks. You guys are geniuses out hacking me, you fucking pedophile piece of shit. Oh.
So tomorrow morning, another sunny day. It will be another warm day. We could see temps closer to 20 in pockets of the GTA tomorrow, and we're basking in that weather for most of the day, and then we get into some rain tomorrow night.
That's rolling around in dry sand like a pig. It's a white people word.
We've seen very little lately, especially for the month
thought
of
it was
March.
black
We've only seen,
acid.
I think, just over about 2 millimeters of rain. So this is where we're going to
2
get the bulk of the
millimeters, you're
rain now.
lying. That's called a trace in the U.S. No one calls that a trace.
Friday and Sunday we'll pick up about maybe 2 to 5 millimeters as well. So we'll get a decent amount of rain as we start to prep the garden.
2 millimeters
it's been a good spring
is a
so
decent
far.
amount.
The guaranteed high today was 15. Your
We
overnight
should have
low is
got, what was it, 4 inches of rain this month? And we've got less than 1 inch. And she's saying a 1/16 of an inch. There's a whole lot of rain. Wow, you're fucking retarded. I know I'm slightly off, but I was real close.
They're investigating after a 2-year-old girl died in a hospital last week. This is 680 News.
And you're telling us now, that's all. Virtue signaling. Look at us, we're going to solve this murder. You did nothing about it happening. Did you?
And right now they're also offering 40% off lenses for adults and free lenses for kids with free purchase. They direct the most insurance plans too, making the process easy. Why wait any longer? Arrange your family's eye exams at provision.ca today.
So laser surgery's tax-free and glasses aren't.
Restrictions apply. Taxes extra. See store for details. Ends April 30th, 2021. Exams available at the independent doctor's optometry at or next to Provision.
At or next to. That's another one of those unofficial medical arrangements in this province.
And actually make their way to the Senate floor. Traffic. The right lane is blocked by emergency.
If you ask a doctor or somebody that works at the doctor's office to explain their referral system, they can't. They can't explain. I've given cards to people, and somehow because I gave them a card, they count that as a referral and to come in and whatever, but they won't do it if you just walk in or call them up. Oh, you're creative. It's the white secretaries that hate us. My tooth's still rotten. I'm still waiting. I've been waiting 3 months for them to call me back. Don't worry, I'm going to visit them when I have $3 to spare. He's a conservative Chinese dentist.
Before the mic was cut.
We all watch games. He's not the first to
You already
do it,
tried
but
to call me
Keel
out
has
once
been
because the
fired by
racist
the
cunt said
NHL.
some made up
In a
shit.
statement, Senior Executive VP of Hockey
And she
Ops
fucks
Colin
cops
Campbell
or
said
something
the
because my
NHL will
phone
take
number
any
keeps
and all
getting
steps
handed to them
necessary to
every
protect the
fucking time I make an
integrity of our
appointment. If
game.
she gets the number
Keel
within a
was
day, I'm
scheduled
getting
to work
calls
his
from the
last
police
game
asking for
April
drugs or
24th.
whatever.
I'm Andrew Dodd.
I'm supposed to be too stupid to know who I gave my phone number to. You didn't notice I give you a new one every 6 months,
You
dumbass?
deserve the best. Find it at Coventry North Jaguar Land Rover.
Going into the Army and serving, it doesn't have to be a long duration, but they should put in, 8 weeks minimum. And in today's environment, there's so many places that the Army could be utilized, including the
Hey, 10 years ago, you should have spoke up about the Canada First Defense Strategy, you fucking piece of shit, child molesting, homo, fucking old man, get your skull split on the sidewalk, no one gonna raise a fuss about a piece of shit.
Well, that's well spoken, and I appreciate you leading off in that direction, Michael. Thanks a lot for it. All the best to you.
Guys should do.
Well, certain parameters, 8-week minimum, maybe. Now, there's a lot of complexities here. In cases where they might assume certain roles or jobs, you might get pushback from public sector unions. But nonetheless, notwithstanding that, let's just say
Pushback from
that this
public
kind of
sector
public duty. Look, the weed
What does
thing
that mean?
that was being
Oh, you
proposed
know,
last summer,
you know.
scandal that entailed volunteer work. I mean, young people were being paid. And this was an idea where, in part, it had merit. But the point is,
Two brothers who have never had to work a real job ran this place for 25 years. Young people were being paid to work. That's helpful because the young people here are inheriting land that they should be rich off of. The government exports to everywhere, refuses to pay anybody for their input costs. And it's a good thing these young people are being put to work. Why? So you can pretend you worked, you fucking homo piece of shit. Hey, what generation are you again? Right, the one that had everything rubber stamp handed to them.
I joined up when I was just turning 17.
Oh, what is all this?
And I found just those.
All these guys are going to talk a blue streak, but how good they are. I'm going to give you a little tip. From 1990 till now, if you were not a racist, child molesting piece of shit, you didn't get into the Army.
It's those little things that they teach you,
Oh, okay. So the people that can prove me wrong will list a year when it changed.
If I asked my son
Everybody
to
else
make
calls me a
bed,
piece of shit. He just proved my
when
point.
he was younger, it was
We've
more
been
like,
Canada's
what?
Army longer than
like,
Canada
I'm
been
gonna
a country.
be
So
sleeping
who
in
the
the
fuck are you to make any fucking
But,
comments about what I say about it?
with the
Man,
military,
you're nobody.
it
That's right.
teaches you
I'll bury you on
routine.
this land. No,
So
that's a
when you get
lie.
up in the
We don't
morning,
bury
this is
bodies. We leave them on top of the land.
Start your day. And I found that I took that straight into my work ethic, right?
Your work ethic.
When I get up in the morning, it's a small wins. You
When rapists that are white yell at me, I take it to heart and feel guilty about it. When they look the other way, when I victimize someone, I know that it's okay with God.
They teach you structure.
They don't teach you nothing. No, they don't.
Respect for authority, which I find a lot of
I have to come yell at you every 2 minutes to do something, as these guys need. You haven't learned anything. Hey, can you explain that helicopter that fell into the fucking ocean 6 months ago? Or the snowbird pilot that smashed the fucking plane into a house? How much money does the homeowner get?
It's that sort of
Fucking
lifestyle.
dumb. We don't need people like that in
If you
the
weren't
Army.
there for breakfast on time,
So-
you didn't eat breakfast.
The last one, okay, so this is 3. 8 people killed. This is 10 or something now on this
Public
count.
service, even for a short
So
stint as
they're
a
at a
previous
live
scholar
fire
said,
exercise. They're blowing up munitions of some type.
I mean,
And
we get
there's an
exceptions
army
if
truck.
people
It's
are
a
in school,
Milverado.
they
It's a big, huge
a
Silverado
job per
pickup.
se.
Parked
Would this
next
be
to the place, and they are all standing in front of the truck
Most
to watch the munitions blow up.
definitely. I think that every kid should go through it, male,
We don't need
female.
Just like China
I
and
think
Germany.
they all benefit from it greatly because it takes them from a
The
life
people
of
that have no
excuses
clue
to
that they
a
were
life of,
handpicked
yeah,
because
I
they're
can get this
stupid
done
are
and
telling
I
us
can
how it
do it.
works.
I got
You know,
you.
Are you going to raise trouble for us racist child molesters? No, okay, you're
I got a
in.
lot of calls on this one, but I appreciate it, Alex. I got
Like
the
what
gist
I'm
of what you
saying?
had to say. By the way, if you wanted to
You
call
weren't in the
from
Army, were you?
outside
Hey,
of the GTA, feel free.
what's the deal with the
It
weird
is
phantom calls I get from you
888-225-TALK,
morons?
888-225-TALK.
You got the whole armed
We'll hear
forces
from
behind
folks,
you. Everything's audited
where
at all times, and
maybe
you
the sentiment is
still
different outside the major
pretend
built-up
somehow.
urban cores,
Gee, I'm
where
too
everybody
stupid
wants to
to
have a
know.
white-collar profession.
Oh,
And
telephone works.
maybe even sneers at doing some kind of military duty or being affixed to it because, well, heaven forbid, we want to have a militarized society. But it's not about that. It's about duty. It's about
So here's the
having
problem. Micmac Police Warrior Society. Here's the problem. You keep trying to split your military and your police forces. Same thing, Germany.
are certainly into the collective mindset. So
You split them. What you end up with is the Stasi that will hurt the citizenry because it's all they know. Oh, it's my job to tell them what to do. No, it's not. It's my job to tell them what to do. I'll hurt them if they don't. Right there, you just committed 2 faux pas. And anything military will destroy the police for doing that. So, why did you separate the two?
Good afternoon, John. Thanks for taking the call. Great day for talk radio.
Sure is. Thank you.
Don't separate the two.
Thank you. Well, my older brother put all 6 of his kids through the Canadian military, and it certainly didn't do them any harm.
He put
And
them
my
through.
own son did
And it didn't do them any harm. That's good.
the
What does
Canadian
that mean?
military
He put
reserve,
them through the army.
and definitely straightened him out. And I think it's
I'll not put
a
this.
wonderful thing. I think
You
that,
can't make someone else join. It's
so
not
much
possible.
maybe. I guess you can't really force things on people these days.
Not back
I
then
think
either,
certainly can't
stupid.
harm them. I mean, a lot of our other institutions have gone
This
by
is
the
the type
wayside.
of person that thinks rape
Scouting,
doesn't
when I
harm
was
somebody
younger,
if you
I was
didn't
in
physically
Scouts.
hit
That taught
them.
you very much the same military principles. You learn discipline. You learn to be on time. You learn certain skills and house skills and things like
See
that.
how white people are. They gotta be told how to do these
Got a
things.
bad rap now with things that have happened in the American Scout League and Canadian leagues and so on. So yeah, the military is the next sort of greatest thing.
Did you just mix up the cadets with the scouts?
So I don't think the U.S. has an equivalent. If you join cadets,
I appreciate your weighing in.
then
as
between
well.
the age of
Coming from
16
a
and
military
18,
family as you do. Let's come back.
or
Take more calls.
from 16 onwards. At 18, you can do it yourself. At 16, you need your parents' permission. You can transfer directly into the Canadian forces.
Right now, though, military duty, whether it be compulsory,
I don't think the U.S. has that equivalent.
Better served
In
by
any other country that has the equivalent, it's like the Hitler Youth. It's not the same
The
thing.
message might be within
Or the
that
Taliban or
military
something.
service, but
Let's see how much garbage we
believe this is a really good structural
Look,
component to a
it's
young
almost the
person's
same,
life.
but I don't.
Agree, disagree. Again, 870-6400 or from out of town, 888-225-TALK to join the Oprah Show. Global News Radio, 640 Toronto.
During the Only Adventure sales event, find exceptional limited time offers on Land Rover vehicles, including the legendary Defender, the dynamic Range Rover Sport, or the versatile Discovery Sport.
228 talk, 228. I'm not even gonna bother. Star 67 pause 1 I forgot it.
Finance rates as low as 0%, or savings up to $5,000 on select 2020 vehicles.
What's the difference? If I call him Star 67 pause 1 he doesn't know my. Oh, I can't do that with the 888 numbers. You're right.
Land Rover, above and beyond.
I almost got excited.
I'm so over this. I don't even know anyone who's had COVID-19, and it's not like I'm at risk.
When
We don't
people
see many
die,
people, just
no
a
one
few
comes and
neighbors
tells you they
close
died.
friends. It's fine.
When you
Whoever
die,
else can
the rest of the
have
world
it,
doesn't know it.
careful.
All those people you thought gave a fuck about you down at the bar, wherever you hang out, they don't even notice you're not there.
Stay home as much as possible. Visit ontario.ca/COVID-19 for more information.
Thursday early evening, your overnight low is 7.
That's the 680 News.
We have breaking news from Toronto police, who now say homicide detectives have taken over the investigation into the death of a young child in the West End.
680's Mark Douglas joins us live with the latest. Mark.
James, it's homicide number 16 this year for Toronto police, and this
That's right.
victim is
Most
a child.
homicide investigations start as not homicide investigations. Who fucks it up for the first week?
Constable David Hopkinson says it all began last
And
Friday.
then they can say, oh, well, we didn't fuck it up because the guys that had us before us did it.
In severe medical distress. She succumbed to her injuries and was pronounced deceased.
The criminal investigators from 31 Division up here in Northwest Toronto and from
North
the
York.
Child and Youth Advocacy Center were called in at the time.
Child and Youth Advocacy Center. That would be a private nonprofit and not a government agency.
Force trauma. Hopkinson can
What do they have to do with it?
reveal and break basically any other detail about the case. The name of the girl and the hospital where she died are all being kept under wraps for now to protect both her identity and the integrity of the investigation. Neither
It's
can
not to
Hopkinson
protect her
say if there
identity.
were any
She's
suspects
2,
either
and
within
then she's
or
dead.
from without the girl's family.
Okay, so
We would be
she doesn't
looking
have
at
privacy
anyone
rights.
that may have had access or contact to the child.
Hopkinson can say, however, that
Once
this
you're
was
dead,
an
I can't get in
isolated
trouble
incident
for having your
and does
personal
not
information
indicate a
because you
danger
do
to the
not
public.
have
Law
privacy
outside 31
rights.
Division headquarters
They're doing it to protect her privacy. No.
Ontario will be delivering its
There's other children in the family, and they think they're going to have to charge the parents. That's what it is.
During the pandemic, sources
Can I just break it down for you?
the theme will be protecting lives and protecting.
If they tell you the name of the little girl, it tells you the name of the caregivers, and then that tells you the name of the other kids whose privacy is protected. And the worst is, some of these assholes go to court and everything. Their names never come out of public because of that.
After delaying its planned March 2020 release because of the onset of COVID-19, that document had record spending of $187 billion and a record deficit of $38.5 billion.
So the provincial budget will reportedly include funding for hospital expansion in Brampton, something that mayor says is long overdue.
We got a 38 million people. You can stop saying it's pretty close to, I don't know, no, a week ago. I love when people in the media don't know the biggest stories in the media. 38,040,000 we passed last week.
People talk about hospitals being at capacity during COVID. We were at capacity before COVID even started.
Really? Before COVID started, you were at capacity in March 2019 or 2002?
The only big city in Canada without a university.
A day after the province announced funding to help get more people
to and from
vaccination appointments, the city of Toronto's unveiled its own plans to do the same. This comes as the province reports more than 1,500 new cases of COVID-19 and 10 deaths. Here's Six Cities' Mohan Qureshi.
The city is trying to get people who may not have a ride access to transportation so they can get their COVID-19 vaccine.
Starting March 29th, the city is piloting transportation options for seniors aged 75 years of age and over.
Dick Weaver, give back my watch. You're the next to get home and date.
Ride services provided by community organizations.
Mayor Tory says the transportation.
So you think the things I talk are bullshit? Go back a year ago and change when I said the only person getting a flu shot was a old blind man dragging two small children to the flu shot clinic. Did he get it? No, but the two little kids did. Are they his kids? I don't see how. You let people do these. It's so important. It's so important. What did you find out? What did you find out? There was no flu season that year or this year. On top of the vaccine being a guess and not working, you found out there was no flu season. But those little girls have now been poisoned with mercury and formaldehyde. That's wonderful. Or aluminum or whatever the fuck. That's wonderful. They're just francophone black kids and girls, so it doesn't fucking matter. 3 reasons right there, it doesn't matter, right? I can do these videos without weed, but I feel like I'm giving you even less than nothing. Here's the guy without weed sitting there bitching about things. Wow. You can do that without me, too.
Where you at? Hit me up for the money. What is that? Get his paper, get his cash. No, we here with my niggas in the trash. Put it in, flip it quick, get it back. Hit me up with my niggas in the room.
My hands are bigger than yours.
Sweeping up with a broom. Run it down, run it down, run it down. Double cup, double cup, double cup. So I got a couple racks today. Didn't think I'd make it, but I made it back today. Cashing out in the bank every day. Put in work, get paid. Where my niggas at? Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody?
When I get my hands on you, I ain't letting go. I've seen what happens when people got that cocky smile on their face, or they can't breathe. Yeah, so don't make it go there.
I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. Just got off the plane, juice all in my veins. 6 buzz my name, no one on these flames.
So I thought they killed the vines up in the spot where I got these, but it turns out I found a bunch. I found one of them was still growing out of the ground.
Get a hold of me, this beats already, BET, raise a bar for the sea. If the work ain't clean, don't come for me. They show up before, but they wanna come around. I'ma ride this way till the water run out. I'ma spark this place till the fire burn out.
Oh, these would normally be like a beautiful blue. But the term in grapeology is noir. This is good. That song's too short, honey. They do that on purpose, so you'll play it twice. So the Canada First defense strategy was completely ignored by the government of Canada 10 years ago, and now we did exactly what we said would happen. Attrition, attrition, attrition. There are like 22 million people of military service age in this country. Something like that. It's like 8 million and 12 million or something. 10 million and 12 million or something. Doesn't matter. Hey, white girl, leave. I love how you people give me dirty looks for being somewhere. I didn't tell you to come to my neighborhood. I don't bitch about everything, do I? Seems like it, but I don't.
My niggas in the room, cleaning up, sweeping up with a broom, run it down, run it down, run it down, double cup, double cup, double cup. So I got a couple racks today. Didn't think I'd make it, but I made it back today. Cashing out, got a bag every day. Put in work, getting paid. Hey, what my niggas said, Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. I just wanna party, like I won the lottery.
All you adults aren't supposed to notice. Irresponsible humans aren't supposed to notice these. Animals and kids.
No one on these flames. Fucking Friday night.
I saw what I believe was a butterfly today. It may have been a moth. What do you call it? There's some of them big moths, but I'm pretty sure it's a butterfly.
Get a hold of me, beef I'm Friday, BET, raise a bar for the scene. If the work ain't clean, don't come for me. They show up before, but they wanna come around. I'ma ride this way till the water run out. I'ma spark this place till the fire burn out. Some before, but I'm most done now. Fucking Friday night, where the fuck is everybody? I just wanna party, like I won the lottery. Fucking Friday night.
So there's these flowers that climb on the fences. They look very thin and frail. The flowers are very small. I don't know what they're called. I just know they make little pods that look like an onion with little tiny black seeds inside. And there are big ones and there are little ones. And I planted a whole shitload of those today. The only place I ever see them, almost ever see them grow, and it's on fences that are in direct sun. And it looks like no soil, or very thin soil, or asphalt with a crack in it. What it is it doesn't get waterlogged. It doesn't get a lot of water. Apparently they need really good drainage and direct sun. There's a couple of places I've seen the ones that are really big, the big seed pods on wooden fences. Everywhere else it's chain link fences only. Small ones, all that shit. So everything I plant seems to flower. Everything I'm planting lately is a flowering plant, I should say.
Angry and antagonized when I rap, I vocalize. Lyrically, I optimize. Every line is criticized. Mentally, I rationalize. We as people are categorized, politicized, and immunized. This life isn't stabilized. Come on, please open your eyes. Ears open, eyes open, heart. Eyes open, heart.
You wouldn't even see these. The people that tried to rip them down so they wouldn't grow don't see the yet. This is why I don't flip out and get upset by them cutting them down, because I see the seeds hanging right above where, yeah.
And the only reason these won't grow right on the same soil where the mother plant's growing, the mother plant's sucking up all the resources, sending out little electrical signals to fuck off, so the seed won't sprout. Once you kill that mother plant, and you might not have killed it, they're big, thick motherfuckers. But I think I got enough to re-crop the whole city. So the blue ones would actually be called noir in the books for some reason. Those ones there have been sun-dried all winter. And possibly all summer last year too.
Is it ever gonna be enough? Is it ever gonna be enough? Is it ever gonna be enough? All the lace and the skin in the shop.
And I found specimens of what I grow that I didn't know were there. There's tomatoes and grapes. There's at least 2 tomatoes and 1 grapevine I found that I didn't know were there. I may or may not have planted them. I did not know they were there.
I remember when we were getting into it. Everybody else said that
I think that's a reference to the United States, late entry to World War II. So when they voted for an official language, it was 7 votes for English, 6 votes for German. Supposedly, I forget where I read that. I better double check that. So I guess I'm saying this.
Hey, what do you want to do?
I don't know. What you want to do?
I just want to kick it with you.
Alright, cool. I just want to kick it with you too.
So what you want to do?
I want to kick it with you.
Break out the papers.
Roll the papers.
Bottom up to the
Say, I want to kick it with you.
Break out the papers.
Roll the papers.
Oh, that's gross. How did I miss that?
I want to kick it with you.
Break out the papers.
Roll the papers.
Bottom up to the
Say, I want to kick it with you.
Break out the papers.
Roll the papers.
Off the rest in your mind, tell her you just stop rewind, let it flow and then combine. Female energy can't stop ever moving. Lean back and then in front of me, feeling this heat, jumping out my feet, smoking this weed like the head I need. I take one to the dump, while I inhale it real slow. And if you plot a home and then I'll pass it to your home. We smoking trees, roll up and rays, life is focused in the blaze. We be going off the base, gonna let you say.
It's not good. They're not even on the side. I can't even keep them on the same side the way you got.
Word.
So what you wanna do?
I wanna kick it with you.
Break out the vapors.
All the papers.
Lot of cause we here to stay. So what you wanna do?
I wanna kick it with you.
Break out the vapors.
All the papers.
Lot of cause we here to stay. So what you wanna do?
I wanna kick it with you.
Break out the vapors.
All the papers.
Lot of cause we here to stay. So what you wanna do?
I wanna kick it with you.
Break out the vapors.
All the papers.
Lot of cause we here to stay. Sick vibes on my soul, sweetness, kindness, lightness, hope, stillness, timeless, kindness, focus, don't stop, stop with the moment. Let the speed up with your mind. Time you should craving into my mind. Stop inhaling back to my soul. Up her head, my spine, when I press rewind, I feel that bass on my MP3. Smoke out me that ganja. When I feel real hot, when I hit this light, when I feel my soul on fire.
Shorty got pneumonia while she got the bird flu. This picture, all the pigeons around the world marching, there's goose, and all the geese goose stepping. I saw a goose, a singular goose today. Oh, it's all free. That creates a membrane Probably hear it now. May or may not hear it. I keep looking down here. The dehumidifier comes on and off. You don't know about mechanical refrigeration systems. There's a big giant capacitor with that's not a good noise to me. And I'm watching my LED lights flicker all the hell here. This thing's as old as me and it's been running. It took a couple of years off. It just didn't run. I don't know why. But every time it starts up, it dumps so much power. It draws so much power. The monitor and these lights and everything fuck up. But once it gets going, it's fine. But if it starts going, if it does that every 60 seconds, that means the thing's overheated. It won't. So they call it a 3-in-1. It's a relay, a capacitor, and a thermal protection. I'm pretty sure that's what the 3 stands for, the 3 different components. That's what it does in any event. So when whatever calls for power, the thermostat, the power switch, there's a relay to connect to the capacitor and the overload thing. So there's enough juice to start up the motor, but if it's overheated, it won't. Now it's chugging away. Yeah, it's like an old diesel tractor. It's fascinating just for the fact that it's still running. That was fun. So put that right over my ear. Can't hear shit because the wet bandana forms a membrane.
What my nose up, your head down, no doubt about it. Make the bitch scream, make you wanna power out. And then I'll be up and out. It's all the shining like stars. They know who we are. They know who I am, motherfucker from the train.
I know I bitch with the weed sometimes. Just to put it into perspective, the worst weed we have here is better than you'll find just about almost everywhere.
Get it by the power, you get it by the team. You be running around the town at the same. I need a big
And that first world problem.
I go harder than the rest of them. That's what people say, and I'm the best and all the best of them.
So all this talk about, all this rhetoric about people should be in the army, blah, 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 blah. aside, and the Canada First defense strategy being put last. That's a funny thing to have happen, right? Shoot up, but he didn't do that, did he? No, that happened before he got it. He's a drama teacher. He's teaching some kids some lessons right now. Now, I want to know the last conversation he had with the kids he teaches before. I just want to know. I just want to know. As for blackface and brownface, if you can do that, you can probably pull off some crazy shit in terms of drama. He's a drama teacher. Put it in perspective. He's not a fucking grocery store manager or fucking, I don't even know what it is. Doug Ford runs his own small business and stuff and then ran for city council because pure sheer frustration with how shit was running here. Him and his brother. Contingency plan laser could use twice as many fucking soldiers as we have. Even if they just went in, did the training, then there's so depending on if you do it as a reservist or full time, you owe a certain amount of time working for the Army. But they treat it like some sort of human resources department. You go like ziprecruiter.ca, but it's CanadaForces.ca. I'm not joking. It's you need a job, forces.ca. Really, it's just a job, but you all get the same training. So, teacher told us a long time ago that people laugh about someone working at McDonald's, but they told us if you get that job and hold it down, anywhere else will hire you because they know you got the training because McDonald's trains you to do all the stupid shit you do at McDonald's. Where am I going with all this? If all these people did so, it's either 90 days straight or it's stretched out over a year, as I recall. 12. So I think it's one night a week. 2 nights to a weekend a month and 2 weeks a year or some shit. It adds up to the same. You end up having to work for them the equivalent of 2 years. That was 10 years ago. How many people could they have cycled through? Oh, you're not active in the Army. Oh, well, guess what? Technically, I'm not, but I'm out there cleaning the goddamn sewers, so I think that's activity enough. They wouldn't need to be like taught about biohazards and personal protective equipment of all types. The Canadian Forces has the craziest bug suits in the world. So it's just I don't know how this happened. I didn't touch it. Everything was depending on these Jesus books, and the Jesus books did not hold up, did they? I don't know what the fuck just happened there. All this wasn't even stacked yet. This knocked other shit over, didn't it? Oh, even when shit goes wrong, it goes wrong in an interesting way in my mind. You wouldn't see people doing porch pirate shit. You wouldn't. So people, it's like a lot out of sight, out of mind. It's really weird. Canadian Forces, the Parliament Hill shooting, you can look that up on Wikipedia, Parliament Hill shooting. They had a story right away when this happened, right afterwards. And then a year later, they changed the story, made no reference at all to the original story. But the point is, after that happened, because somebody died, Canadian Forces members were told not to attract attention, don't wear your uniform off-duty whatsoever, blah, 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 all sorts of just, oh, Chomo's getting mad. Is it going to go up and down now, up and down? Yeah, you started 2 minutes before the hour. You're so creative. I'm literally talking about people like you, and you interject. So, people forget and think there's, like, they forget Canada has an army. They don't recognize any. They don't even see the veteran or Canadian Forces plates. They don't even see that shit, or even the fire department plates and shit. I mean, those are vanity plates. You have to have certain paperwork behind you to get. Like you can't just get a veteran plate because you want one. You get a popular. You can get stuff. It's like support gear versus real gang member gear. You people don't know what a red license plate means. They play chicken with fire engines. You really expect the truck to stop on time for that? So why am I planning for the worst case scenario? You should laugh, but I bet somebody who lives for a year off grapes does a lot better than somebody who lives for a year off nothing.
I got cocaine, marijuana, shit don't stop. I get your teeth knocked out, if you're out on my block. I got the steel cock shout, if you ain't on top.
There's a tree that, I don't know how to put this. It's 3-4 feet tall, but it's split. Sorry, the stump sticks out of the ground. The tree snapped off probably in a storm. There's several adults and one child, and none of the adults notice. I noticed, but none of the adults notice. The kid starts pointing at the tree at the back because it's growing. I'll touch the button. I'm gonna wait for it to go off. Come on. It's gonna be one thing after another, we know. It's gonna be one thing after another, we know. What does that mean? You've done it 4 times in the last 10 seconds, bro. I called you up 2 minutes ago for interrupting me talking about you. I'll just wait till you're done, stupid. So we get attacked over the internet in weird ways. I'll just wait a moment, it'll clear up. So none of the adults that were walking by noticed, but the little kid noticed that the tree is growing up out of the stump. There's a little branch coming up out of the stump. It's not dead. Both my hands are here. So this is just, I'd hate having to waste seconds, minutes, hours on this. We get attacked by idiots on the internet. And then some of the stuff they do, the image jump and jump and jump, and I'm still waiting for this thing to get off the screen and the music to come back. You're quite a bit behind. What happened there? So what that was there was network lag. Okay, there shouldn't be any. There shouldn't be any, but that's what that was. So the music player would not start playing until it got a confirmation from some other device out there on the internet. That should have been seamless. Plus the alarm wouldn't go off. Hey, why don't you pipe in that train piano smash noise? So I do keep hearing something underneath the music, and it's not cool because it's not the radio. I'm looking at the radio. So, yeah, keep showing me with my eyes closed. It's good, but they're not closed. Sort of looking this way, but I can still see the screen. I know it looks like they're closed, and I know you're obsessed with showing me that you think of me with my eyes closed. I don't know what that means. You wait for me to go to sleep till I'm getting here or something? What does that mean?
Podcast about big people, politics, land, and water.
So, the reason I'm planning for the worst possible scenario.
Oh, yeah, man. Hit. Dang.
If you think like a small kid hiding from something dangerous outside, they're being told over and over, stay in the house, right? So what happens if everybody gets sick and starts dropping dead and shit? All these kids know is stay in the fucking house. If there's food plants growing right outside the fucking house, they don't have to go. Hunger will override fear every time. And children are fearless as it is.
Ain't no more paradise down here, it's only heaven up. You won't get a chance no more down here. I ain't showing no fear. I gotta ride for my other side, and they gotta ride for me, cause they gotta say that they'll die for me. They gotta shine for me.
Because while the one place I'm not planting them is up and down the train tracks. I would. There's several things going against that. But the only one I care about is that it incentivizes going onto the tracks.
Cut them off and all to kiss my ass. Haters don't love it, I ball just like Nash, saying that they want a ball, throwing bins in the trash. I'ma hit it up like fuck your haters. I gotta see it later, like fucking adding up my stacks with the calculator.
saying that they
detracting from their property, they yank them off the wall. If you do that, it pulls chunks of bricks off.
First heartbreaker, I never broken hearts before, but I just might take you.
And I know what? There's a security camera there. They saw me taking the berries.
Like a bitch, gotta read this.
It's okay. I'm gonna throw tomatoes there. They won't know what to do with those. I've had people scream at me that they're poisonous, like yelling and clapping their hands like I'm a stray dog or something that they're trying to get rid of. Why then? Bitch, shut up. I'm not talking to you.
It happened so fast.
Well, since I'm not her pet dog, I just ignored her the first 3 or 4 times.
Computeristic gamma gangster leaning tactic analog and galactic sonic wheels bionic transmitted it,
oh yeah,
get it till I
I didn't mention it, but
with it till it attacked you. Infatuation, verbalization, spit at you. Duck the oral boomerangs back to smack you. Raw with disinfectiousness. Hydraulic Scotch spring like mattresses and taxes. Bionic sonic wheels like Panasonic.
What about them saying? Why are you picking a fight with me?
Bomb with critical napalm fluid, platinum wrap, plutonium liquid. See how the flow leak out the tap like water. Mega verbal slaughter, silk sip, cheap, sick and shark in the sea. You touch me, you catch a charge from the energy. I'm blessed with tremendously hot spit. Straight out the cockpit, distract the clock tick, then fly. The fuck out, man. Meticulous in the way you split the alphabet to tab. Ridiculous in the light. Trivial match the hindsight. The high view. Futuristic alligators to the attack. Galactic sonic wheels. Bionic automobiles. Computeristic alligators to the tactic analog and galactic sonic wheels. Bionic automobiles. Protocol, the master mechanic ratchet and twist me. It's the isolator in me. One more promise of your mainframe. Better yet, brain frame. Please not attempt to refrain or restrain your catalog of rhymes, because I will definitely dog mine. Fucking all my hoes from behind. Look at that.
I got all this here. It's just a coincidence. It's the same color. It is not coffee.
The epitome of the automotive industry. Automobile, those of you that can drive better.
I suppose you could try making tea out of it. If I was stuck in some sort of fucking cold ass place all winter long with running out of shit to eat, I'd probably try making tea out of it. Somebody at some point looked at psilocybin mushrooms and said, I'm gonna stick those in my mouth no matter what they smell like. So I don't know, again, I don't know what this is called. There's actually 2 types of seeds in there. The significant majority of these brown ones. There's these smaller ones that look like a coronavirus. A little ball with spikes coming out of it, sort of. Whatever it is, it looks like what most people call a weed. But it grows in the worst fucking soil. And it makes these big, thick, woody stalks.
Breakdance with a bomb and fluid to get through it. Dancing like a ballerina with skates on. The Indy 500
it grows at level crossings, meaning where there's railroad tracks and an asphalt road. Yeah, bad air, chemicals of all types, herbicides, everything. And it's sprouting up in the middle of the fucking thing. Anything around level crossings, you gotta stomp down. You can't have any blocked sight lines. And you have to remember, kids are this fucking tall. They're not this tall, they're this tall. And you're not trying to make it so the train can stop. It's not going to stop. But if they see someone on the tracks, that's when you hear that horn blow.
Did anyone see this happen? I didn't hear. This car was a lot fun and he come whipping around the corner. He hit her and sent her up in the air 20 feet. Then it took off without even slowing down. She landed hard on her back and it was terrible.
So I collected all these last year because I've never seen this shit before. And now I'm going to dump them on the worst soil out there. It's going to rain shortly. Keep it up.
Get it. We've been got since like July. I ain't want no problems, really try. Niggas play the part. Push the status, push the start. In Jamaica, auntie push the cart. Break it down. Whipping poppin' since Rihanna told us take it down. The baby mama love my niggas. Swear to God she fuckin' with us. Swear to God it's nothing with us. These bitches block me, then they follow back. If I'm Gwen Stefani, I had to holler back. They been flashy since I started cat. Pull up in that Dodge Charger black. Pull up, let me switch the floor a bit. I wonder if these niggas notice it.
I think it's sort of funny because I planted the entire one side of a set of train tracks. I'll plant them next to train tracks on this side of the fence. If I can get there without getting on the tracks, I'll plant them there. And then walk around to the other side and found the branches they cut down. Just plant these somewhere else. And that's why I don't try growing weed in the ravines or anything. Somebody will rip it up.
This ain't a Lambo with a Honda. Let's get it.
Got to send me on me like a nigga that be rocking Chuck Taylor. And the cocaine, they got comeback. I call it cut razor. Really got me on a fuck state. I gotta stay low. I can't trust neighbors. Me, I got weeded and bad bitches. Don't forget one nigga. What's greater? I got probably like 100 flows, so I'm different. I don't got one flavor. I be shooting what you running for. Got a gun on you, so you much greater. All I know is tying niggas up. If you run in their crib, got a duct tape them. Shoot a nigga in the stomach if I ever feel he about to break one statement. Pussy boy better stay low. I got a halo for any break. So money bags as I make dough from that yayo. I got pesos. Little bitch, I let her make hoes. Might drip turn rain snow. Your drip is like no drip. I got an old clip for that cane folk. Tell you bitches what I came for. Fresh, I'm hopping out the Range Rover. Got them lame hoes trying to call me back for that dick, but they don't get no name though.
That Steve or whatever the fuck they call it now. Ed Silk today with 180 kilos of methamphetamine in the trunk. He came in on a rail car. And those rail cars go straight factory to factory. They don't do anything. They go all the way from Mexico to Northern Ontario.
I keep it 100. I swear that they feeling my niggas are drumming. If I put a price in their head, I'm still gonna. I fuck with a bitch and I never would love it. They bluffing, they doing this shit for the public. I shoot at your stomach and take all your budget. My thugging is out of this world like a shuttle. I probably go run in your crib if I wanted. I kill my opponents. I feel like I'm Hogan. My slogan is kill 'em. If I'm in the moment, I do what I want. When I want, put a hole in your face if you talking that bogus. If they got that money, I'm keeping it loaded.
This ain't a Lambo with a Honda. Let's get it. This ain't a Lambo with a Honda. Let's get it.
It was some type of four-cylinder Japanese motor going incredibly fast.
Different ways to struggle. No stranger to the rag, you the failure to raise a hustle plus what? About 20 bucks for a day's work. How to luck, I turn the white tee into a gray shirt. Ain't no punk, homie, maintain Hollywood respect. Do my thing, I get the looking shit. Got the good connect, no stranger to the snipe game. G tastes like cigarettes. From the butts on the ground that I round, you still soldier and no sleep devil. Yeah, cracker, that's only dead time. Personified a subway train. I'm the red line from Hollywood to Hershey. Puts up, heads down, calling them a cursing, call it a perversion. If I only knew a camera crew to follow me in person. No A&E, you wanna see pay the fee, hit a jar, can't say to me so angrily. I got one, you idiot. I work double shifts, y'all don't see the pain, and that's where the trouble is. Imagining that generation or X stab in the back. Dirty needles, good kids hurting people. Mom didn't raise me like this. Wipe the hate from my lips, blood and H in the mix, drip all the way to my wrist. Yeah, I know what an atheist exist. I live forever as a blood stain, my name will exist. In this bathroom stall, how I last you all. Push the plunger, catch tags and blast the wall. Ain't no telling where I can go from here. Hope I'm clear, I see through the smoke and mirrors. I left harder on purpose to provoke my peers. My life is overrated, man, I've been a joke for years. It's overrated, man, I've been a joke for years. And I don't need to tell y'all the times is hard. And you don't need to tell me that I've been scarred. I'm not a fraud, let me believe that I'm in charge. I got the keys and I'ma drive this car. Pain behind these bars, need a minute, put my mind on pause. Hollywood, pull my back, my feet will shine these stores. One hit, one fix, one more time, a toss, spiking my wrist. Crucify me, climb the guy. Hey yo, good times, bad times. Hollywood sign, fat lines, slip them to the dawn to your flat line. I stick the dick with the chrome with a black nine, skid roll, no place to call a home. If you lack spine, if you can whip, yeah, you can roll, yeah, that's fine. See these dudes forgot their PD rules. I read graffiti like news while I PT cruise. Lit the fuse, hit the pipe really like hitting snooze. I lick the fuse, hit the pipe really like hitting snooze. I never wanna wake up, perpetual insomniac. In retrospect, I guess it sounds better when I'm on the track. Need a storm at, I'm the drug cool, almanac, white room, walls are black. I do all of that, call me back, let me know though. This the no-dos, running from imaginary people, no logo. Rip the boat on hot boys, your sister photos. Mr. Monkey Water mixed with cocoa. Twip refused to ditch the loco. The spray and sunny shit, $60, yeah, in the soul. Too quick, that's the money quick. Said come with this, yo, when's this guy leaving? I bounced from the telly quick, now I'm dry heaving. Still got the cash though, delivers my game. Let go, deliver my pain. My aim, don't remember my name. Yeah, the city is straight. Cash for all of the stones. Cinders remain carved in all of the thrones. No judgment, can't trust my. So I catch a bus ride. 22-story swan time. But too much pride standing on a Julian. Family reunion. Vanity had ruined the memory. The two of them was all in a day's work. Simple soul sacrifice. No more pain hurt. Feel the soul cast the dice. Burn both ends. I gotta light this candle. I learned from old friends that my life's a gamble. Yeah, cause my life's a. And I don't need to tell y'all the times it's hard. And you don't need to tell me that I've been scarred. I'm not a fraud. Let me believe that I'm in charge. I got the keys and I'ma drive this car. Pain behind these bars. Need a minute, put my mind on pause. Hollywood, pull my back, my feet will shine these stores. One hit, one fix, one more time, a toss. Spreading my wrist. Crucify me, climb the car. And I don't need to tell y'all the times it's hard. And you don't need to tell me that I've been scarred. I'm not a fraud. Let me believe that I'm in charge. I got the keys and I'ma drive this car. Pain behind these bars. Need a minute, put my mind on pause. Hollywood, pull my back, my feet will shine these stores. One hit, one fix, one more time, a toss. Spreading my wrist. Crucify me, climb the car, yeah. Cadillac Ron, Makita bitch, yeah.
Up and down. Yes, up and down.
Should we be conscious about?
Are you fucking done?
The environmental impacts of the infrastructure? Of course we should.
You're not a
That makes
hacker.
common sense. Are there?
You're not a hacker. You got no finesse, nothing. You got no self-control ever.
10 years
You got no finesse. You're not a hacker. You're pursuing no
and
purpose.
that is inherently quite green. And
Killed the
that's
fucking audio again, didn't you?
competitive advantage for Canada that we can draw on. So that's positive. But what is critical for us is how do we grow the economy, first of all, and get people back to work so we can afford to
afford what? We
meet
grow
our
everything
demands
here.
that we have in
We make
decarbonization
everything
and
here.
making
We don't need
an
any of
economy
these other fucking
that is more green. So we need to look at various sectors of our economy, ask ourselves where the strength is today. One of those is resources, and we should be looking at how to bring Canadians responsibly to market. That certainly includes agriculture, for example. And digital technologies are another area. There's a wide range of other ones as well. No quick fix here, but we should be strategic in what we're doing.
Right, which I guess by way of follow-up, many people are concerned that the oil and gas industry, for example, would be sacrificed on the altar of the so-called green economy. How do you say oil and gas going forward?
Net profit for the country yet?
I think it's bizarre that people would argue that every single one
boil back and forth across the moon, boil back and forth
to create a greener environment. But we need to be strategic about doing it. And just going back to your previous question, the other thing that the government has to keep in mind
doing it again, you've got no finesse and no self-control. What you see me on the screen is when you decide to do this. What's your trick?
If they look at the new programs they bring in, new spending, they have to be able to differentiate between the nice-to-haves and the must-haves. We need to focus on things that will actually space to being self-sufficient again. And
subsidies again. Where?
Program was
keep it up, Chomo. This Chomo's pissed off because I know where the money comes from.
Today, $1.3 trillion.
Somebody does little kids' TV sets and tablets and old people's phones and shit.
You got it, Mr. Beatty. I appreciate you weighing in.
I mean, what that's supposed to
mean. And to you, Baron Beatty, President and CEO of the
Canadian the irony is when you threw blood in my face, I closed my eyes.
Hot seat. Although I just wanted to take a pivot away from that for a moment. We were talking in the first hour about Elvis Presley on this date in '58 joined the Army. What kind of army was it? Well, there's an author who's written about
the kind that had Elvis Presley.
Elvis's army. Cold War GIs in the atomic battlefield. So we will digress just for a few moments and find out what that's all about. Here on the Oakley Show, 21 paths right now to the roads we go on a check of chopper traffic. Ari Rabinovich.
The West 401, John, we still got this collision. West 401 collectors approaching the 404, actually. The right lane is blocked. Here approaching the 404, the right lane is blocked. And it's a lane from before Victoria Park in the westbound collector lanes. Now the westbound Gardner jammed out of downtown. DVP to beyond Spadina. Around Strawn it starts to pick up, but there's a new problem spot westbound Gardner at the 427. A new collision blocking the left lane. So an extra delay from about Kipling to that spot. And reports of a crash in Richmond Hill and Elgin Mills in Bayview. 50-year-over rescue pharmacist today helping prevent pneumococcal pneumonia with the Prevnar 13 vaccine is right for you. Learn more at Prevnar.ca. I'm Ari Rabinovich, Global News Radio, 640 Toronto, chopper traffic.
Rigorously tested in Sweden's Arctic Circle, every Volvo is designed to handle even the harshest Canadian winters. So no matter the weather, Volvo's advanced safety technology is designed to help make sure you and your loved ones arrive safe and sound. From March 25th to 27th only, save an additional $1,000 on most Volvo 2021 models. Offer not available on the XC40 Recharge. Conditions apply. Visit your local GTA Volvo retailer or volvocars.com.
The Government of Canada urges Canadians to avoid all non-essential travel. All travelers 5 years of age or older entering Canada must provide proof of a valid COVID-19 molecular test result. Travelers will be tested again upon arrival. Air passengers are also required to book a 3-night stay at a government-authorized hotel at their own cost prior to entering Canada. Details at travel.gc.ca/travel-COVID. A message from the Government of Canada.
That tells you how bad the COVID problem is in the forces. Already the law says if they don't like your plan for self-isolating, you go with the Army to an undisclosed
Stay
location.
connected to global news on radio, on TV, online, and stream free 24/7 national and local news on the Global TV app.
ARSON Insurance Group presents Did You Know?
Ways small business can save on insurance. Shop more than 21 days prior to your renewal and get a 15% discount. Plus, save an additional 5 to 40% when you give permission to use credit score, meaning up to 55% in discounts. Call Vashon today.
I am Conrad Vashon, and we're your insurance broker. Vashon Insurance Group. Call 416-239-3373. That's 239-3373.
It's the Cheap No Limit sales event, where you can enjoy big discounts on the original SUV, the one that continues to define and redefine what an SUV can be. The most awarded SUV ever. Right now, enjoy up to $8,100 in discounts on select Jeep models. Plus,
your lends a hand.
You should figure what the fuck they think about all this shit.
And then in goes
Soldier. You're not getting the credit on this video.
That production is up.
There's gonna be There's gonna be. You want to talk about us?
As I speak, the provincial budget,
which in Canada
we're going $100 billion more into new debt, and that's not going to see us come out until at least 2029. Okay, hang on just a second. Somebody giving me more details on that. Just a flood of information coming in, and you know, it was last hour we were talking about this date, 1958, saw Elvis drafted and inducted into the Army, which had, I think, Well, we had a lot of good discussion about mandatory service, whether or not mandatory, voluntary, but Elvis Presley in '58 was at the height of his burgeoning career. He was 23 years of age. He was in the midst of making movies there that the Colonel got him locked into. But there was a certain symbolic significance, as much as anything, to his induction into the U.S. military.
The idea is everyone else
and there's a book that cites that by way of example, and it's called Elvis's Army, Cold War GIs and the Atomic Battlefield. And its author, Brian McAllister Lynn, has weighed in here on the Oakley Show. Good afternoon, Brian. Okay, he's not there just yet. I'm told he will be shortly, however. Okay, we got Brian now. Hey, Brian, good afternoon, and welcome to the Oakley Show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I
was going to say, don't go down that boulevard.
My nail now bends back like a...
Yeah, all right. Brian has left the building. No, listen.
From the country to city folks, threw them all together, and as Tom Lair pointed out, treated them equally regardless of ability.
Well, and some people, though, did pull privilege and got deferments and things like that. We acknowledge that much, though, don't we? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, but that was sort of what was fascinating about it, and people don't recognize that the Army was seen as one part of the Cold War, and one of the things that the United States believed, at least, to learn from World War II, is that you needed to have educated people and skilled people. So the deferments tended to be towards jobs, occupations, and so forth that were seen as helping the overall strength of the country.
Now, was this unity of purpose generated by the fact that we were in the midst of a Cold War? It was an atomic age, and there was a very real prospect of nuclear conflagration, so that everybody did step up out of a sense of collective duty?
Yeah, and I think certainly that was the case for people in the Army, which was prepared to fight an atomic war. And with all those who scoff at Elvis's service, I always point out that he was in a reconnaissance unit right up on the border. And if war had been declared, he probably would have lasted 12 hours, let alone 24. He did his duty, and he was, very much at risk if there had been a war.
Right, a certain mobility then attached to his being there, rather than just a photo op where the Colonel maintained that, and the Colonel was really, I guess, he was stage managing a lot of the early induction into, even the haircut and everything like that. What was the point or purpose behind all of that?
Well, I think the Colonel, Elvis's management, and the record company was part of this too, was determined to take Elvis from being a teen star into a national star that even grown-ups would like. And certainly that worked, because Elvis goes in, if you remember his movies prior to that, King Creole and Jailhouse Rock, where he's portrayed as a teen delinquent, and he emerges as this clean-cut young American that we see in GI Blues and Blue Hawaii, and subsequently became, by 1964, the highest-paid actor in the United States.
And did he help to sell patriotism at the time?
Oh, very much so. And in fact, the ads for GI Blues are in marked contrast to the ones for Jailhouse Rock, and emphasize, full with American flags. If you've ever seen the movie, the GI Blues ends with Elvis Presley standing in front of a gigantic American flag in full uniform, saluting. There's about a total 360 from his image in Jailhouse Rock.
There's bags of dog shit hanging on the floor.
How did that play with the counterculture that was burgeoning at the time, and of course came into full flourish in the 60s? And then, Elvis actually in 70, I think, or thereabouts, was invited to the White House with Richard Nixon. That's been turned into a documentary. So there's that sort of evolution through the 60s. How did that stand in? What was the perception then with that generation of people?
Well, John Lennon certainly said, was quoted when Elvis died as saying that Elvis really died when he went into the Army. And certainly, I was born in 1953. By the time I got into that music, Elvis was passe. We were very much Rolling Stones fans. So, but on the other hand, Elvis then went on to change musically and was doing gospel, country and western, patriotic songs, and of course then got into the Las Vegas gigs, which made him millions and millions of dollars. So in terms of musically, Elvis probably did much better after he went into the Army in terms of finance, in terms of talent and or sort of musical substance, he declined remarkably. But in terms of his musical career, which Elvis is interested in, you know, he never defined himself as a rock and roller. He always defined himself as a singer. He did very well.
Yeah, you'd have to say he was uniquely American. As you say, he's crossed all those genres already. He was gospel without parallel as far as the singing was concerned. Country music, he defined a lot of those phases, and you couldn't really pin him down to one genre specifically. Fascinating insight into, you know, how this whole thing, that watershed point in his career when he went into the Army and how that informed a lot of the perception of Elvis and his own, I guess, impetus going forward career-wise. Thanks so much. Elvis's Army, Cold War GIs and the Atomic Battlefield. That's an interesting read, Brian. I appreciate your sharing some of the thoughts this afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
You keep running
have a great time
across the bottom of the ice.
Thank you. All right. Brian McAllister Lynn, author of the book Elvis's Army, Cold War GIs and the Atomic Battlefield. All right, we'll get back into the local scene here with a budget just being released. Many of the salient points we'll deconstruct with Swifty and Potsy, our midweek roundtable up next on the Open Show.
How much money did they spend on the Army?
Toronto.
How much money did
Daily
they spend
Grand Lotto,
on
you can win $1,000 a day for life.
Wait, every single day?
Yeah.
So I'd start liking Mondays?
Probably.
But everybody hates Mondays, so I'd suddenly be an outcast, living on the fringes of society, a bizarre Monday-loving weirdo.
But you get $1,000 every day for life.
Then TGIM, baby, and every other day, too.
Daily Grand Lotto. Draws every Monday and Thursday. Buy tickets in store and online at olg.ca.
Between China and India, Bhutan is on the front line of climate change. And for farmers here, the unpredictable weather has become a challenge.
Whether or not
to see it is also changing the way they grow their food. Carlo Cracco, and it
sono questi cambiamenti, precipitazioni, questo ingrossamento del fiume che porta via tutto il riso, dove prima invece c'era tutta una pianura di riso, oggi non si può coltivare più, c'era tutta una pianura di riso, oggi non si può coltivare.
And with the National Fund for Agricultural Development, farmers have been encouraged to switch back to indigenous crops, which that tutu is now growing. It is used to make emadachi, Bhutan's national dish. Bhutan's national dish.
Questo è il peperone originale. We are trying to revive those, enhancing the on-farm diversity to ensure that the crops they cultivate are not only climate resilient, but also meet the socio-economic needs of the people.
Finger millet is another climate resilient crop that tutu is now growing, which also brings in a good income. She likes this variety as it is more nutritious and versatile than other cereals.
Finance Minister provincially tabling his budget, $100 billion in new debt, and we're not likely to see the end of it before 2029, 3 more election cycles. So it's projected so far into the future that we can almost be dismissive of that. But he says it's necessary, wouldn't hesitate to do it again. And Swifty, what say you? Would you concur, or do you think it's excessive?
A lot of people are going to vote for it because they know they would not have gotten CERB or none of this shit out of the Conservatives.
I think some of the investments in healthcare and long-term care are probably well situated in general. I mean, yes, some of it is pandemic motivated, or at least maybe it was a pandemic wake-up call, such as the long-term care situation. So, the actual investment in hard assets, new facilities, equipment, and so on, is worthwhile. However, when pots of money are just being thrown at certain parts of government, they tend to get sucked up in wage increases and benefit enhancements and so on and so forth that do nothing to contribute to the efficiency of the economy and so on. And what I haven't heard yet with the budget, I was watching it up until a few minutes ago, is, there are not many measures for helping us to pull out of this as an economy. It's so easy to spend money for government. It's not their money. They get all kinds of kudos for it. And then you've got a serious debt issue. And right now, the debt to GDP in Ontario is already very high. This budget will not, of course, make it better. It'll make it worse. And if we do hit a debt wall, like Canada almost did back in the mid-90s, we're going to be slashing services, which, of course, is something nobody wants to have happen. So I'd just like to see more focus on what we're going to do to get ourselves out of the economic debt hole, help businesses not in a subsidy way, but in a more substantive, enduring way with simplifying red tape, for example, lowering taxes in strategic areas and so on.
Well, Potsy, and this is notwithstanding that we got a federal budget coming out on April 19th, and who knows what kind of wonderful spending programs will be greeted by then. And on that note, though, when, Swifty alludes to our debt to GDP, I think, is now 50%, if not higher. And 27 is really where I guess they say we should be. It's the sweet spot. The Fraser Institute talked the other day in a report about heading into structural deficit territory that we'll never get out from under it. Potsy, do you foresee a possibility? They're talking about 2029 when we can balance the budget. That's just high in the sky stuff anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think the Premier has had a conversion on the road to fiscal responsibility, and this is almost a really good Liberal kind of budget. I've often said that he's starting to spend like a Liberal. He's starting to care like a Liberal, and I'm pretty pleased for the most part. But they didn't take the bait to completely, be austerity minded, and slash here and slash there. So the budget wasn't for them to be defending, high budgets because low interest rates. That's what Liberals were doing under Kathleen Wynne, and so he's right down on that pathway. But I think it's the right place to be. I'm a little surprised that he didn't give any credence to paid sick leave, particularly for people who got the COVID test because they've got symptoms. They should stay away from work for 2 or 3 days, and that should be supported under the Employment Standards Act. And I'm a little shocked that he didn't do that. But the funding and the big crunch is going to come when municipalities start to do their budgeting next year, and there's massive debt coming from municipalities. They don't have the revenue streams, and the government of Ontario, because they're not allowed to run deficit, is going to have to be stepping up. So I think there's a lot more debt to come.
Who's not allowed to run deficit?
Well, and so Swifty, when Arthur sort of says somewhat cheekily that, hey, it's a Liberal budget, basically, is there any alternative? He can't at this phase be cutting programs or reining in spending and increasing taxes or any of those other wonderful tools, I guess, to lower the deficit and hence the debt. So he's really painted into a corner, is he not? How do we get out from under this?
Yeah, that's the question, exactly, and I guess that's what I was trying to get to.
The whole rest of the whole world dependent on us, and then readjust the value of the dollar.
You never get out of a hole by expanding government. You make the hole deeper, and I think I frankly agree with Arthur in terms of the Liberal. I thought the same thing. Hey, we're all Liberals now, but however, the Liberal caring usually means keeping people on welfare instead of giving them an opportunity for employment, which is what the conservative mindset tends to prefer. But I don't think they had too much choice right now. Let's not also forget where we are in the election cycle. It's only about a year away. We're going to be in election mode, unless something shocking happens in the interim. But looks like we're going to be in election mode. So this is also a pre-election budget as well as a mid-pandemic budget. And so they're spending accordingly. What also I wonder about, and this goes for all governments in Canada right now, these guys now are all spending like mad fiends. And yes, okay, justifiable circumstances to a fair degree. But will they be able to break the habit? And boy, I really question that. And that starts to not only get into structural deficit, but major financial crisis territory. And again, I remember 1995 federally, and they had to cut a lot of stuff. Mind you, they dumped, Chrétien and the gang dumped a lot onto the provinces too. But it's not pretty. It's not pretty when governments go
and our city got so big it gobbled up all the other cities around it.
And a lot of people get badly hurt. So that's something to worry about.
Well, how can you can't justify cutting when we've already seen it's been amplified during the time of COVID that hospitals are lacking in facilities, the caregivers are not adequately compensated. And so, in fact, Brampton's getting a new hospital, but that's been on plan since well before even your tenure with the Liberal ranks there, Arthur. I think 2007 that was first proposed. So finally, that's coming to fruition. And then the healthcare, which we know has been under stress. They're giving $2.1 billion more for hospitals to address the backlog of surgery. The backlog of surgeries.
They knew everybody they brought into that room to spend the night was only there one night.
Another $2.3 billion set aside for contact tracing and PCR testing for COVID-19, which now costs taxpayers $46 per test. I had no idea. And so, you see, you can't backtrack on that stuff, at least not in the immediate. I don't understand. You're not going to cut that stuff, otherwise you're cutting your throat effectively. Let's come back. I did want to present Arthur with the prospect of the green tide lifting all boats. We're talking last hour, I guess it was earlier this hour, to Perrin Beatty from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, and their plan for seeing us through to a post-pandemic recovery. That's certainly part of the plan with the Liberals federally, so we'll touch on that and other things too with Swifty and Potsy on our midweek roundtable here on the Oakley Show. 16 away from the top of the hour, back to the roads we go on to check a chopper traffic.
$700 for the medicine.
And on the West 401, we got collision westbound on the Collectors still approaching the 404. That blocks the right lane with delays from approaching Victoria Park. And then on the West 401 off-ramp to here, Ontario, the left lane's blocked here with a stall, so just watch out for that. A couple of East 401 problems too. Eastbound 401 Express before Islington. This one blocks the right lane, delays from the 427, and another one 401 eastbound in the Express at Dufferin, and that blocks two right lanes. So delays continuing through this spot, so stay with the eastbound Collectors again. And also West Gardner at the 427. That crash still blocks the left lane. Delays start from leaving the downtown core from the DVP to past Spadina, and then a delay from Kipling to this problem spot at the 427. Receive rates as low as 0% or savings up to $10,000 on remaining 2020 vehicles during the Jaguar Impeccable Timing sales event. Contact your Jaguar authorized retailer for details. I'm Ari Urbanovich with Global News Radio 640 Toronto Chopper Traffic.
Rogers Day to Save is on now. Shop today and get our best savings on devices and accessories. Act fast because these exclusive deals won't last long.
Let's face it, if you've lost your job, you have questions. But before you call an employment lawyer, go to the free pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. Answer a few simple questions to learn more about your employment rights. Go to pocketemploymentlawyer.ca.
Subway Restaurants introduces new potato bun sidekicks. Soft buns made with Canadian potatoes, stacked with quality ingredients. Try all 4 mouth-watering varieties: honey mustard ham, savory turkey ranch, Italian aioli, and chipotle chicken, starting at $2.99 for a limit.
Tell us about the erosion thing again. Someone has to make all these.
Welcome to Global 3000.
I knew that.
Costa Rica is blessed with water in abundance and with people who are determined to conserve this precious commodity. Ecotourism in Mexico. Will conservation work be the main focus of our holidays in future? Mallorca is normally heaving with tourists, but the pandemic has changed all of that, and that's been disastrous for many locals. Of course, some years it was a bit too much. Mallorca, Spain's biggest island, beautiful but utterly overcrowded. The streets jammed, the bars overflowing, partygoers everywhere. For local people, the mainly German and British tourists were simply too many, too loud, too illiterate. In 2019, 13.7 million foreign visitors descended on the Balearic Islands. Then the coronavirus hit,
and the brakes were slammed on tourist travel everywhere. In 2020, just 1.7 million people came here, a drop of 87%. Yet most local people depend on tourism to survive. Most local people depend on tourism to survive. Things are now gradually starting up again,
You won't even take their
but
money.
it's
You
not
make them buy
clear
your
when
money.
nor concerned. Palmer's sunny winters normally attract plenty of tourists. But right now, there's just a handful of people on the beach.
Donate a car, change a life. A single donation can provide shelter for at least 10 nights or 150 bag meals. Make a difference today and go to homelesscars.ca.
So, our mortgage approval is done?
Great news. The bank has approved you at a 1.55% rate.
What the what? That's way too high. Butler Mortgage is 1.15%.
Well, it cannot be the same as our bank's mortgage.
It's totally the same. 5-year variable rate, same features, no fees. 1.15%. I'm switching to Butler Mortgage. Enough of making the banks rich.
Thousands of dollars to advertise.
License number 12118, high ratio variable rate, APR 1.16%.
They're bidding $400,000 over, still losing the real estate bidding war.
And now, OLG has taken Lightning and
commercials with so full of crap.
has taken Lightning and
commercials with so full of crap.
And lied to. Scenes like this have become commonplace in Palmer. Lines of people waiting patiently at a food bank. Like this one, run by the Tardor Aid Organization. Before the coronavirus crisis, Tardor distributed about 200 meals a day. Now, it's had their hours cut or lost their jobs is rarely enough to keep people afloat. Iria Noceda and her partner lost her job working in a hotel. I'm not ashamed to be here. So many stand in lines like this. I just find it sad to have to ask for food. Organization. It's financed solely by private donations. He says that the crisis threatens to stretch the social fabric on the island to breaking point.
We used to mainly serve people who'd been living on the edge of society for a long time. Now we're seeing families with children who've been out of work since last summer.
The aid organization also is just a few blocks away, which has beds for up to 80 people. More and more locals find themselves trapped in a downward spiral. First, they lose their jobs, and then their homes. Mallorca has a population of 1 million. A third are now living in poverty. Daniel Chavez is originally from Argentina. He's now sharing a single room with his wife and 3 children. Before the crisis, they had an apartment, and he and his wife worked in a hotel.
We both had jobs and were doing really well. But suddenly the virus came and things began to go downhill.
The people of Mallorca have been hit hard. Activist Joan Manuel Segura is heading a demonstration in front of an apartment building. They want to prevent an event in front of an apartment building. They want to prevent an is behind on the rent. Despite the pandemic, there are about 10 evictions in Palma every week. The demonstrations only manage to halt a handful of evictions, and usually it's just a temporary reprieve.
Apartments. Families who were squatting in apartments out of sheer desperation are also being thrown out.
Mohammed El Mahouthi is lucky. The demonstration was large enough to attract attention. The eviction has been halted, at least for now.
What do you mean? Did the judge,
the anger is growing here.
Locals
say state aid has been too little, too late. Many are demanding that the regional government step down.
It's no surprise that people are protesting. We understand that. But at the same time, our main priority is to improve the health situation. We need to relieve the pressure on our hospitals. People's lives are at stake.
As deepens, many people on the island are showing solidarity. Restaurant owners are donating meals for people in need. Jose Mariano Burgos is also helping, even though his restaurant is also on the brink.
You send all those homeless people out to camp in the
So
farm
far,
or something.
he's only received 1,500 subsidies, just a drop in the bucket compared to what he needs.
We want to help the people who are even worse off than we are. This is going to be our worst year ever. Who knows if the government is all talk or if they're finally going to take action.
The environment, if they can get cooperation, that fewer people get laid off, if there's a reduction in salary, that's a negotiation item. I know Bob Ray tried it years ago. It didn't work out so well for him. David Peterson tried it with teachers. It didn't work out so well. Or sorry, no, McGinty tried it with teachers. Didn't work out so well. So I would love as a Liberal if he can do this, because it would guarantee a Liberal election victory next time out. But no, it has to be done in consultation with the people involved.
But isn't that just show you how ridiculous it is that, I mean, part of the reason that government, if you compare apples to apples, like the same job in the private and public sector, the differential is anywhere from about 15 to 40% if you include pensions, benefits, and shorter work weeks and more government, job security, et cetera, et cetera. It is absurd that should continue. Absolutely absurd. And in areas where the government has a monopoly, in Ontario, education and healthcare come to mind, they are held to ransom by these public sector unions that are unreasonable all the time. There is no reasonableness there. And the joke about these unions is say they're helping workers. No, they're not. They're hurting the majority of workers in the province, and this goes for other places in the country as well, because they keep picking our pockets in the private sector, we who pay for government, and to the benefit of ever better paid government employees. And I just heard somebody interviewed on one of the radio shows, and they were a government employee that was ashamed of their colleagues who had basically cruised through this pandemic, taken tons of time off. And I know it doesn't apply to everybody, but it does apply to a lot. And basically no cares whatsoever. That is wrong, and it should end. And I don't care about unions and negotiation and all of that. This extortion of private sector taxpayers is a disgrace, and we shouldn't tolerate it.
You were mentioning the private sector, and earlier in the hour when Perrin Beatty joined us from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, he was saying any post-pandemic recovery is going to have to be kick-started by the private sector. And so, but it was interesting where I asked him about different sectors, and he was saying, you want all boats to rise with the tide. Oil and gas got mentioned. He says we're an extraction economy. So, Arthur, I'm going to go to you, because on this one, you talked in the past of the green economy can get us out from under this as part of, I guess, the Great Reset. Even Aaron O'Toole is now pivoting towards that, and I'm kind of curious what you make of all of this. Is this something that, is irresistible? It's inevitable, I guess, is the point. In the 905 in Quebec, what do you make, by the way, of his pivot towards, saying climate change is real and everybody get on board, my way or the highway kind of thing?
He's looking to
it's also an acknowledgement that that's the viewpoint of the vast majority of Canadians, that it is real and we need to do our part in it. And there is a role for greening of the oil industry. I've always maintained that the supply of the demand for oil is going to be there. We should be supplying it from Canada. But we'd be doing extraction far more efficiently and
importing
greener,
carbon capture, $200 billion arms sales.
We'll need pipelines to move renewable natural gas and fuel through them. So there can still be a role there. But what you need to do is get off the notion that fossil fuels aren't paying, or you have to understand that fossil fuels aren't paying the full freight for the causes of the damage that they cause due to the carbon that's emitted into the air. So when a carbon tax is the right way to go down this route, and to spend money in promoting greener alternatives, the hydrogen, renewable natural gas, renewable power, even small modular reactors, nuclear plants, with the new technology, we're going to be moving people away.
They want to put a modular, they want to put what they call a small modular reactor, which means something that comes on the back of the truck.
In a greener way.
To power the oil sands operation,
but I appreciate your points of view on so many of these topics that we hit on.
Here, never clean up the tailing ponds. They got paid in the first place to clean up the tailing ponds.
Thank you so much, as always.
They got paid again because they didn't do it.
Former head of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, and Potsy. He's a management consultant in the emerging low-carbon economy. We'll talk again next week. Stay well, both. Thank you for your time, as always. Before we get to the news, By the way, on the other side, topics worthy of discussion. Ernie Eves, a former premier and finance minister, understands about tabling budgets. Mike Schreiner is going to weigh in as well, leader of the Green Party of Ontario, the MPP for Guelph. That awaits moments away. Right now we get to Tom at Tom's Place in the heart of Kensington Market. Hello, Thomas.
John, may I be frank with you and the listeners? If you want the economy to pick up and be back where it was a year, all you need to do is just come into Tom's Place, John. You can
buy a suit. That will solve all the problems. He really just said that. This is a second. I need to know if it's going to rain. Someone tells me I better ask for the English one.
Welcome to Canada's Weather Service. Bienvenue au service météorologique d'Environnement Canada. For service in English, press 1. Pour le service en français, faites le 2. For the city of Toronto, press 1. For York Durham, press 2. For Dufferin, press 3. For Halton Peel, press 4. For Niagara, press 5.
The fuck?
Forecast for the next 7 days, press 1. For the hourly observations, press 2. For air quality.
Air quality. Yeah, I need those numbers.
For information on our services, press 8. Contact us, press 9. And to return to the previous.
Another Canadian airline is marked as post a losing day, and a group of struggling businesses are hoping support programs won't be ending anytime soon. Business at 26.
680 News Time 501.
Traffic weather together on one sponsored by TELUS Living Well Companion Airborne Chopper 680 Air Jordan.
Oh, what is with the helicopter? I
Through
can't hear you,
Mississauga
bro.
Road, really slow going right now, south of the airport to east of Kipling, also south of the airport and the express to east of Kipling. Problems there are cleared. And then eastbound 401 is jammed from the 400 collectors east of 400 Express to approaching the Allen, where in the Express, 2 right lanes are blocked up all because of a crash, so it's heavy in both Express and collectors. Really nasty through the stretch. After that, eastbound 401 is slow approaching Leslie in the collectors, Victoria Park to Kennedy in the collectors, and from Liverpool in the Express to east to Salem. West 401 delays approaching the 400 collectors, and from the 400 Express to Dixon. From your Ontario Express Mavis collectors to approaching the Mississauga Road. From the 680 Traffic Center, here's Carling Donahue.
Right now, if you are traveling on the northbound 427, we did just have a collision clear. It was at Dixon, and it's causing delays from approaching Dixon right now. So just a heads up, if you're stuck in volume, that's why. But the collision itself is gone. The delays continue on that route from approaching the 407 up to Highway 7, and that's very typical due to long-term maintenance. Northbound 410 delays steals to north of Queen. Eastbound on the QEW, it's heavy from 3rd line out to Ford Drive, and the eastbound Gardner is a clear commute right now. If you're heading out of the city on the northbound DVP, we've got volume from Girard to north of Lawrence, and then north 404 is heavy from the 407 and north of 16th Avenue. Westbound Gardner delays west of Jarvis to west of Strong. West QEW, that's heavy approaching Dixie to west of Cawthra, and from Ford Drive to Trafalgar and Bronte to Walker's Line. For a limited time, save $60 every year on TELUS Living Well Companion Home with fall detection or Living Well Companion Go. Visit TELUS.com/livingwell. Conditions apply. Now with a look at the forecast, here's Denise Andriacci. Another mild March day. Temperatures really climbing over the last hour or so here in the GTA. We're up to 17 in much of the region. What a nice stretch of weather we've seen. A few showers this evening and later tonight around midnight. Those will clear and it will be a Thursday morning, a sunny Thursday morning with warm temperatures again. The overnight low tonight, you're 7 degrees. 680 News Time 503.
Like the streetcar.
Breaking news from Queen's Park, the Ford government opening up the provincial wallet, rolling out the biggest spending document in Ontario history. Comes with billions in pandemic money going out the door and billions more in debt.
680's Richard Southern joins us live to begin our coverage. Richard.
Well, Jenna, Ontario is going to be deep in renting for at least the next 10 years as the government spends a boatload of money to try and dig the province out from underneath the pandemic. The third budget from the Ford government tabled here at Queen's Park this afternoon is the biggest spending in Ontario history at $186 billion. Finance Minister Peter Bethenthalvey.
We project the deficit will be $33.1 billion in 2021-22. And while this level of debt is neither sustainable nor desirable forever,
I'm absolutely, unequivocally convinced it is necessary to get through the pandemic and to recover stronger.
Under the best case scenario, the budget will be balanced in 2029. So what's all the money buying? Well, parents are going to be getting more cash. The province will give parents $400 per child in grade 12 or younger. That's double the amount they were previously paid in 2 other installments. The government is as well offering a second round of grants to small business, ranging between 10 and 20,000. The small businesses won't have to reapply. There's a new $100 million fund for one-time grants for hospitality and tourism small businesses. Travel agents, water parks, overnight camps, and hotels will be able to get cash. As far as childcare is concerned, the government offering a temporary 20% increase in a childcare tax credit. And on the jobs front, there's a new temporary jobs training tax credit to cover some tuition fees. The opposition says this doesn't go far enough. There's really nothing new as far as education spending here. It certainly shows, though, how the pandemic is blowing a hole in government books. So far, $51 billion has been spent tackling COVID-19. Reporting live at Queen's Park, Richard Southern, 680
so far.
Well, it is clear the
how much are you going to spend on sewers
back on his feet with plenty of pandemic spending, and it's coming at a big price. The debt projected to top $500 billion in just 2 years.
0.05 kilometers, 0.06 kilometers per hour.
From there, James, as the spending measures in this budget are still sky high and will continue to be so for several years to come, and the debt load continuing to climb.
For the last 2
Already
weeks.
the highest sovereign debt holder in North America right now, and this is just going to be a big challenge for the government going forward if interest rates were to go up. Right now, they're banking on interest rates to remain at still close to current levels, maybe a 1% increase. They do have 3 different economic scenarios, because they're just not entirely sure exactly how long the pandemic is going to last or how fast the recovery will be on the other end. They're banking on
3 to 5 years, John. He said 3 to 5 years. The United Nations said 3 to 5 years.
Booming
3 years for the virus, 5 years for the economy.
And consumers spend and businesses invest. At the Business Center, I'm Mike Hummel.
We have breaking news from Yorkville, where a 15-year-old boy has been injured in a stabbing. Constable Laura Bravebant tells 680 News police were called for reports of a stabbing in the area around 3:30.
At 3:20 this afternoon, officers were called to Bloor Street West and Avenue Road for reports that a 15-year-old boy had been stabbed in the stomach. Toronto medics have transported the boy to a hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries.
One suspect is in custody. It's unclear at this time if the suspect and the victim know each other. Police are asking anyone who may have witnessed the incident to contact them.
Homicide detectives have now taken over the investigation into the death of a young child in the West End. Here's 680's Mark Douglas.
The latest homicide case for Toronto police to solve is particularly disturbing.
We're talking about the death of a 2-year-old girl.
Constable David Hopkinson says the girl was brought into a West End hospital last Friday in severe medical distress. She died in that hospital. The post-mortem was carried out Monday.
The results have now come back, and it's believed the child died by blunt force trauma.
Hopkinson says the girl's death appears to be an isolated incident, but that's about all he can say.
We haven't named the child.
What does that mean?
Specifically because naming the child might hamper the investigation as well. We have not mentioned where this may have taken place.
Criminal investigators from 31 Division here in the city's northwest were originally brought in on the case. As for suspects, Hopkinson says they will leave no stone unturned, and they'll be looking at anyone who had close contact with that girl, family, or otherwise. Outside 31 Division headquarters, I'm Mark Douglas.
People you want to lock up and then you fuck up the public relations.
This is 680 News. York Regional Police are urging people to report any incidents they believe may be motivated by racism or discrimination. They've arrested the man in connection with several hate-motivated crimes in Markham. 680's Phil Martino joins us live with that. Phil.
So, Jana, the latest incident happened last Tuesday afternoon in the area of Pillar Rock Crescent near Major Mackenzie and Woodbine. York Regional Police Constable Laura Nicole says a woman was out walking when someone ran up behind her and hit her in the back with an unknown object.
Just devastating to hear that, that members of the community are outside just going for a walk or, enjoying their own neighborhood and being, approached and assaulted in some cases or spoken to and harassed.
Nicole says investigators have located additional victims and linked 5 other incidents that occurred in the same area between January and March to the same suspect. All of the victims are Asian. Investigators believe that the incidents were hate-motivated. 33-year-old Arjun Chaudhry of Markham is charged with assault with a weapon, 3 counts of assault, and 2 of criminal harassment. Now, Mayor disturbed and disgusted by the recent